Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello, Wolves fans. Welcome in. My name's Nathan and I'm your host for today. And I'm also on my own today. The lads, unfortunately, couldn't make this recording. But as you will have noticed from the title of today's episode, I will be going through all of the potential replacements, or the ones that, in my opinion, I think we'll start off with what is realistic and what could possibly happen. And then I'll throw in a few at the end, maybe to sort of see if we can broaden the horizons in a dream world of what managers could potentially come in to replace Gary O'Neill. Now, it's obviously worth noting that at the time of making this recording, Gary O'Neill is still in charge of Wolverhampton Wanderers. He is still the first team manager, and we are all just hoping for a change in our form, obviously. And there's been a lot of talk about him getting the boot off the back of only 3 draws in the first 10 games and sitting rock bottom of the Premier League table with a negative 13 goal difference and 27 goals conceded after 10 games, which is just completely bonkers. So we're a bit of a laughing stock at the minute, and we're hoping that our fortunes change. So I'm going to be going through a few managers who I think could potentially come in if Gary O'Neill were to get the sack. Now, in my personal opinion, before I start going through these, I don't think Gary O'Neill is going to actually get the sack. I think they're going to give him the opportunity to go through the next 4 or 5 games, where we've got a few games at home where there's opportunities to pick up points. And I believe that he's a bit of a yes man to the board, so I don't see there being a huge amount of change. And also worth noting that Wolves at the minute are maybe not necessarily the most attractive club to come to, with what Lopetegui said at the end of last season, with the lack of investment in the squad, and the overall vibe around the place, if we want to call it that, just isn't very good. So it's always, we can talk hypothetically about these managers, but this is all, of course, hypothetical, and worth noting it's all my opinion as well. So take it with a pinch of salt. So I'm going to start off with a couple of managers that I think are the most likely candidates, or the ones that would most likely take the job based off of their background and their experience. And those 2 managers are Graham Potter and David Moyes. Now, I think David Moyes would be the more likely candidate out of the 2, simply because of his experience, and specifically experience with clubs of our size, I want to say. I don't know sort of exactly how much more budget West Ham United had. I think they did have slightly more than what Wolves had in the past. And then, of course, he's had experience at United and Everton prior to that as well. And he's got so much experience as a manager in the Premier League. Some people do see him as a little bit of an old school manager. I think, obviously, you don't make it as far as he has in management without having some depth to your tactics. But from the way that he lines his teams up and the kind of, I always refer or think of David Moyes' teams as kind of having that grit and determination, and the kind of, I don't know, they kind of have a bit of a dirty attitude towards winning games. I don't know if that's absolutely correct, and I'm sure there's some West Ham fans might correct me out there, but the fact that he was able to bring them to a major trophy, winning the Conference League with West Ham, was a massive achievement, and just the overall experience that he'll bring through his many years of managing in the Prem, and 20 seasons in total he was a Premier League manager for. So if you're asking for experience and someone to kind of steer the ship towards the end of the season, I don't think there would be many better people out there for it. And the other name that I mentioned just then was Graham Potter, and I think he, on the other hand, I see it as obviously highly unlikely that Graham Potter wants to come to Wolves. And to be honest, I think it's highly unlikely that any managers are sitting there at home out of a job thinking, oh gosh, I'd really love to come to Wolverhampton Wanderers at this moment in time. But Graham Potter's, I guess, experience has been always having a project on his hands. He's always had something that he's kind of built, And the one opportunity or one time that he hasn't had something to build was at when he was thrown in at the deep end at Chelsea, and there was a lot of changes going on above his head with this kind of ownership situation at Chelsea. I personally, I don't see it, but he would potentially be a good choice. He's had 4 seasons in the Premier League, obviously guided Brighton to Premier League stability and loads of great success there as well. And he really had the opportunity to mould his own squad. Now, the barrier that I see for Graham Potter is that the Wolves board don't seem to be, or they don't seem to have backed the previous couple of managers as much as those managers would have liked. Apparently, Lopetegui was promised a load of investment and he never came. So Gary O'Neill seems like the type of manager or apparently he seems comfortable with the investment that's happened over the summer. Although his recent comments have maybe suggested otherwise, but we covered that in the previous episodes. And if you'd like to hear myself and Chris have a good old rant, then feel free to check out Tuesday's episode there. But yeah, Graham Potter, I think, would be a good option for us. He long term would be, in my opinion, a fantastic appointment in that he can build his own squad and really put his stamp on the style of play that he wants. And he plays a style of football that I think Wolves fans would like, which is sort of that expansive, playing out from the back, attacking football. Now, I see him as way less likely than David Moyes. A few other managers that are kind of out of the job at the minute is Frank Lampard. I remember seeing him at the weekend. He was on the Soccer Sunday or whatever they call it, Super Sunday, on the Chelsea United game. He's always got some interesting things to say, but as a manager, his record is all right. He did really well at Derby in the Championship, obviously, and then came to Chelsea, had a decent first spell, then got the sack and came back again as a caretaker. He's got good experience. I think the one thing about Frank Lampard is that he commands a bit of respect always initially because of his stature as a player and how good he was throughout his playing career. But I really don't see it from a logical point of view. I don't know if Frank Lampard would like to move out from his London base and move to the sunny Midlands and Wolverhampton. But yeah, there's an option there. He's out of a job, and then there's a few others, and some of these would be quite unusual appointments. And before I do actually go into that, I just wanted to let all you listeners know that here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner with 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs. It's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more. So, some managers that I think would just be funny to see at Wolves, and just even thinking about it is just a bit odd. The first one that I thought of, or that is on this list of managers that are out of the job at the minute, is Sam Allardyce. And although I'm saying it's funny, the more I look at Sam Allardyce's record as a manager, he was last in a job in June of 2023 when he was the manager of Leeds United. His experience is all with clubs that are about to get relegated, pretty much, or he's brought clubs from the Championship into the Premier League. So, as a style of management and the clubs that he has managed, he's got probably the best CV to come and manage at Wolves. But I think the fact that he's been out of a job for the past year, and I don't think anyone's wanted to really touch Sam Allardyce, would mean that I think he's so sort of left field when it comes to that appointment. But it's just funny to think of Big Sam at the Molineux. I think it's funny almost in a sad way that this is even potentially a possibility. But anyway, Sam Allardyce has been out of the job for just over a year now, and he's got obviously all the experience in the world when it comes to managing clubs that are near the bottom of the Premier League table. He's had success at some of those, and some of those have completely flopped. But he is, as you all, I'm sure, will remember, the only England manager to have a 100% win record. So that must mean something, right? The other manager that I thought would be a funny appointment would be Zinedine Zidane. Now, I personally think it would be it'd be brilliant to have Zizou at the Molineux, or Zizou, as they say in France. I don't know if his style of play or language barrier would really work well in Wolverhampton. However, I think he would obviously command a bit of respect, and imagining him in his suit in the dugout at the Molineux is something that he would make Gary O'Neill look a little silly, I reckon, if they were standing side by side. So, although I'm sure Gary O'Neill would have absolutely had him in his pocket on the pitch back in their playing days, Zizou would be I think just be a funny appointment. I don't think we see that many managers at the Molineux with suits on, but yeah, Zinedine Zidane strikes me, or at least I always visualise him with a suit on, and I think he would be, yeah, another left field appointment that would be. It's nice to dream sometimes, right? The other one, and the final one that there's a couple more on this list when I'm looking at it that would be an amusing watch on the sideline. Would be one of them is Joachim Low, the former Germany manager, and I don't know if we want a nose picker at the Molineux, someone who's just enjoys their bogeys just as much as managing successful football teams. But Joachim Low has got all of that in his CV, and he was last managing in 2021 when he got sacked from the Germany job. So he's been out of a job for over 3 years now, and the likelihood of that is again very, very low. But just stay with me here, guys. I'm trying to keep us entertained with some ideas. Another one that has recently got the sack from Manchester United is Erik ten Hag. I don't think his time in England was very fun at all. It wouldn't surprise me if he's headed straight back to the Netherlands to move back in with his family and all the rest of it. But the man was never wrong, to be fair. He found an excuse for absolutely everything, and that is in line with Gary O'Neill. Potentially, Erik ten Hag could learn a thing or two from Gary O'Neill, because Gary O'Neill's managed to wiggle in some lies into his interviews as well, which I don't know how much Erik ten Hag lied in his interviews, but I'm sure we could learn a thing or two. And the final manager that I'm going to mention here is Xavi, 44 years of age, little experience in management, similar sort of experience in management to Gary O'Neill in the length of time that they've been managers. Obviously, super similar when it came to their playing careers, especially of the level that they were playing at. Obviously, I am joking, but Xavi played an interesting style of football at Barcelona, and him on the sideline is again a funny thought for the Wolves fans out there. But yeah, that's it from my ideas today as managers that could potentially come in at Wolves. I hope it's been somewhat enjoyable and something different for you guys in this period of, it's a tough time to be a Wolves fan at the minute. It is a tough time. And before I leave you, I just wanted to remind you guys that this podcast is part of the Global Sports Podcast Network. It's the only network bringing you exclusive daily news and views on your Premier League team, the Premier League, women's football and fantasy football. A unique listening experience that puts fans first, bringing you the very latest breaking news from your team. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and make us your first listen every day. Global Sports Podcast Network, every club, every day. And on that note, everyone, I think that is pretty much it from me today. As I mentioned, I think Graham Potter and David Moyes are probably the most likely candidates to come up for the job. I actually have just realised that I've forgotten Gareth Southgate out of this list. I don't know if he wants to get back into club management, but I think he would be, if he's looking at that, Wolves would be a very, very big challenge, as it would be to any manager coming in at this point, especially given the situation going on with the owners and investment or lack of, should I say. But Gareth Southgate, again, got some experience with Middlesbrough in the Prem, has obviously plenty of international experience with England. His style and the way he builds his teams are over, especially with the England team, was over a long period of time. He was able to establish a sort of stamp on it over the best part of a decade. So I don't know how well suited he would be to club football and how different that environment is to the international setup. But why not? Why not? Gareth Southgate, waistcoat himself, could maybe be at the Molineux. So, yeah, on that note, everyone, I hope you have a lovely end to your week, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.